Hello, folks. Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. Um, I saw this deck list in the 5.0 deck list dump, and I knew I had to play it. I made a passing comment to the folks in the Discord, and I was like, yeah, if I get a dealer's choice donation deck list, I'm probably going to play this list. And about 30 seconds later, I had one in my PayPal account. So thank you to Robert A. for making this happen. So this deck list is from Sabor de Soledad, who has come up with a couple of the deck lists that have seen play on this channel. I believe they did the Skelementals deck list that I think it was like Unearth and the like Ball Lightning Skeleton Elemental thing that I'm blanking on the name of right now. It was a lot of fun. Oh, and as a quick side note, based on the feedback I've got, the folks who watch on cell phones say that manually zooming in on cards like this is just bigger than like the preview that I had over here. So I'm gonna keep manually zooming in on things. That's the decision I've made. Okay, so this deck list is built around the best boy, Yoshimaru Ever Faithful. Whenever another legendary permanent enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on this thing. Now, this says legendary permanent, not legendary creature. Okay? So, your legendary lands, they count. Okay? Your legendary artifacts, they count. Your legendary creatures, I know what you're thinking, they count too. So, this is a creature that can get extremely big quickly. So, on turn one, you can play a land, play Yoshimaru, play Mox Amber, that's a counter. Play Kithian, that's a second counter. And like you have a 3/3 already on turn one, that's Delver size stats, and you can continue to grow it from there. Now, this does mean that there's some potential issues, right? We are playing 4 copies of multiple legendary lands and 3 copies of Caracas as well. So if you take a look at the mana base for my mono white deck, we have 3 planes. 3. So if we are playing against like Wasteland decks or Blood Moon decks, or Back to Basics decks, there is a very real chance that there will be some severe consequences because of that. We are getting every single possible drop of value out of our lands. And that does come with a price. I will do my best to not tilt off at drawing multiple copies of legendary lands, but I make no promises. All right. As far as the rest of the deck list goes, there's some similarities with Death and Taxes here, in that we still do have a Stoneforge Mystic package and whatnot, but this is really closer to an aggro deck. We have Urza's Saga to make construct tokens and fetch up some of the permanents in our deck. Now, notably, Urza's Saga can fetch up our Mox Amber, and serve as mana acceleration, or it can do some of the other stuff that you're used to doing. Notably here, Hope of Girapur is a legendary creature that can grow our Yoshimaru. As far as the cards that you might not recognize here, Thalia Heretic Cathar saw a lot of play for about a 2-week window, and then a bunch of other Death and Taxes cards got printed that kind of pushed it out. So this tends to see play in Soldier Stompy and Ancient Tomb decks, and less so in something like Death and Taxes now. The options are just too good. But when you are playing other mana acceleration, Thalia Heretic's Cathar effect is very powerful. When non-basic lands enter the battlefield tapped, and that includes fetch lands, that can really slow your opponent down. You might slow them down for a turn when they initially play the fetch land, and if they don't have basics to fetch, for another turn when they actually fetch the land itself. And then there's Adeline Resplendent Cathar. Its power and toughness is equal to the number of creatures you control, and whenever you attack, for each opponent, create a 1/1 white human creature token that's tapped and attacking the player, or a planeswalker they control, if they've got one. So this is a card that scales up pretty quickly if it is not contested, and this is definitely vomit little creatures onto the board deck, so we'll see how big those things actually get. Highlighting stuff in the sideboard here, there's one card that many of you might not know, and that's Lantern of the Lost. This is similar to a Relic of Progenitus, but slightly different. So when this thing ETBs, you exile target card from a graveyard, and you can pay 1 and tap this to exile all cards from all graveyards and draw a card. So this might be better against something, say, like a Reanimator deck, where the first time it comes down, you surgically take out one specific card that you are looking for, and then later, when they try to go off again, you can pay your 1 mana and kind of nuke everything a second time. I'm really excited to give this one a go. I think it's really cool when aggro decks exist in Legacy. It's pretty rare. In the Luris era, there was a mono white Weenie deck list that did relatively well and put up a handful of finishes. Madness, for a little while, saw its spot in the sun, but generally speaking, tempo decks tend to do better in Legacy than straight up aggro decks. So let's see how this one goes. There'll probably be some ridiculous plays and some fun screenshots either way. If you're new here, please consider subscribing if you enjoy the content, and if you're a regular, please throw me a like before this video begins. It's the easiest way to support my content for free. Let's battle. Okay. Round one. I have one land here. I don't think this one is quite gonna do it. I'm gonna go ahead and mull again. Let's go to 5. Okay. I will be keeping this hand. One Urza Saga goes back for sure. And then probably the Adeline. So I'm going to be hoping that I can run through this game with a Cauldra. And apologies, I have an absolutely awful glare in the background. I will get that fixed after this game or match, depending on how long sideboarding takes. All right, we are playing against a blue deck of some kind. Misty Ponder is not the most telling play in the world. We are seeing a snow-covered island, so like there's some chance we're playing against an Ice Fang Coatl deck of some kind. But I'm not going to read too much into anything here. Let's just play a land, call it a turn, and see what our opponent has to do. Ooh, Verdant Catacombs. Okay, yeah. Ice Fang Coatl deck seems likely. I think I'm going to use... Well, there's an incentive to play Thalia backed by Caracas next turn, but I don't know how much I actually care about this Thalia. I kind of want to use Thalia as a bait spell to actually resolve a Stoneforge Mystic and have that go all the way. We're playing against a bug deck, and this is still an if. If we are playing against a bug deck, a Aldra will be a major pain in the butt. Okay, we've forced a Brainstorm, and let's see if we're going to see a fetch in response, or a Daze, or a Force, or anything. Okay, Force pitching Uro. So I do have a Caracas, so that Uro is not going to kill me. It may be annoying, as it very frequently is, but it's not going to kill me. Unfortunately, this game, we're kind of playing a mediocre, like, Death and Taxes-y hand, rather than, like, an aggressive hand. Like, if we had gotten in with a decent-sized Yoshimaru, that would have been pretty cool. Is this Urza Saga now? I don't think so. I don't really want to show the Caracas, or I have to. But I probably give up a lot of Urza Saga value if I just play the Urza Saga here, because I'm looking to do Stoneforge-based shenanigans. There's Cauldra. I will just go ahead and play out the Shadow Spear, I think. This becomes awkward for me if my opponent plays a Wastelands Caracas, and then produces an Uro. Otherwise, I think I'm okay. A lot of the control decks have shifted towards white recently, just because of how good Prismatic Ending and Swords to Plowshares are. Swords to Plowshares is particularly important because of how much of a beating Murktide Regent is in the format right now. Okay. Yeah, there's Baleful Strix. Again, though, this gives Indestructible. So, like, the Death Touch that's here is not actually all that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. Alright, Mom's an okay draw. Yeah. Alright. So let's loop in this Cauldra. Get my attack on. Crash in for 5. Put my opponent to 14. And then I think I'm going to play Mother of Runes while holding up Caracas. There's some uncertainty of which exact cards are going to be in my opponent's 75 here. Because, like, the bug decks aren't super popular right now. So while I don't maybe want to go as far as calling this a brew. Oh, okay. Well, that's the reason why my opponent might want to be in these colors. Let's see what they can do with this. Now, I can cast this Stoneforge Mystic for free. Let the record show. This is bad for me. So, for those of you who don't know Cavern Harpy, you can pay 1 life to return this thing to its owner's hand, and like you can use its ability to repeatedly draw cards. My opponent is going to have a lot of chances to go and draw cards in hopes of maybe drawing an Acererak. That is likely to be the kill condition of the deck here. So we'll see how many times this loop repeats. The issue here for my opponent is that I can... That's a little annoying. My Caracas doesn't really mess with that. But I can bounce it to my opponent's hand. Yeah, that's bad. I think at this point my opponent's just got it. Yeah, bouncing it to my opponent's hand doesn't really do anything here. Okay. So now that my opponent is netting life from this, I think they've just got me. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to when they play something relevant. Okay, my opponent has played 2 Birds of Paradise, and they let the Uro go to the graveyard. They have found their win condition. So I'm going to go ahead and concede and not make them click through that. In case you're not familiar with how this works, the short version is that Acererak allows you to venture into the dungeon, and for each loop through the dungeon, you can drain 1 life. It's a combo that you can immediately shortcut in paper, but is an absolute pain to do on Magic Online. I'm not forcing my opponent to click through that. I want them to find their win condition, but I'm fine with stopping at that point. So the bad news is that Alurin is kind of a hard deck to hate on. So each player can't cast more than 1 non-creature spell each turn. So my opponent going and looping all those creatures isn't actually stopped by Deafening Silence. So I will probably fight against the fair side of their deck with like Lion Sash and Rest in Peace, and probably not do too much more beyond that. I can maybe consider Pithing Needle for Cavern Harpy as well. Hope of Girapar also like stops non-creature spells. That's not the greatest. Probably gonna board that out, replace it with Pithing Needle, and I can probably think about one of Grafdigger's Cage or Lantern of the Lost to help out with Uro as well. The opponent has a bunch of Death Touchers, so creatures without First Strike lose out on a little bit of value. So like Tomic and Adeline get a little worse. I have not great options versus the combo. Which is worse? Probably Tomic. Tomic has the advantage of being a 2-drop. Adeline has the advantage of like my First Strike creatures can still like attack in and generate value. Let's get rid of the Tomics and then play one of Cage or Lantern. Let's do Lantern. The cards do slightly different thing, but I think the card is important. Okay. This is a 1-lander. I don't think Yoshimaru into Mom or vice versa is fantastic. I think I'm going to mulligan here. This is a keep. The Mox Amber is awkward as I don't have a cheap legendary creature, so I think that one just has to go. This is a little bit of an underwhelming opening hand. I wouldn't explicitly call it bad, but I'm not really happy with it. Let's see if my mom just immediately eats it to a Fatal Push-like card. The answer is no in a lot of cases, because my opponent is going to try to get, like, ramp cards like Birds of Paradise online. I think I try to get Active Jitte. That feels good to me. Okay, yeah, and it was good enough for my opponent to force it. I got a Cavern Harpy for my trouble. I also think I'm going to take my chip points of damage where I'm going to get it. I really don't have an aggressive hand here, and I absolutely feel behind already since my opponent is accelerating out a 3-drop play this turn, and I could die as soon as this turn. So I'm going to take my chip damage where I can get it. And, okay, opponent didn't hit another land drop, which is really nice for me. So let's rest in peace, try to nuke the Uro. All right, I succeeded. And again, I'll take my chip points of damage where I can get them. That just feels so important right now. I have very good 3-drops for if I draw another land. Unfortunately, a Mox wouldn't do it right now. Again, don't have legendary creatures. So at this stage, I probably can't attack into an Ice Fang Coatl because I would actually trade with Mom. So this is just going to be a Stoneforge for Called Return. And we'll hope I don't die. Good plan, right? Hope you don't die. It's like, Allure Rack just kills me. Don't do it. Don't do it. F. Yeah. So I can make that stuff ETB tapped. I can play a couple cards for free, but that just beats me. I can't interact with this combo. GG's. I wouldn't expect to win this matchup most of the time. Okay. How is this hand? I have a turn 2 into a turn 3 play. It's kind of whatever. I'm not, like, stoked with it. And I'm on the play. This doesn't take advantage of the aggressive nature of my deck. And I have a duplicate card already. I think I'm going to mulligan this. I don't feel like this deck mulligans well. I don't think this is a keepable legacy hand either. I like this one a lot. I'm going to keep this. I'm going to throw back my 3-drop. I'm probably playing Mom and Shadow Spear on turn 2 a good portion of the time. And then trying to activate Urza Saga a couple of times, so I think I'm going to get rid of the Thalia. Just noticed that my opponent is mulliganing to 5. That may have been a mistake given that fact. Alright. Best boy aggro. Here we go. Alright. My dog friend has resolved. Let's do it. Mox Diamond. Alright, so we're playing against lands or something of that general ilk. I hex multiple Maze of Ith. Okay. This is cool. So Mox Amber will trigger Yoshimaru. And I can play Shadow Spear. That triggers Yoshimaru. Now, my opponent has this Maze of Ith. So I can't necessarily just, like, absolutely go wild in terms of crashing in. But if they didn't, I could have attacked with a 4/4 Trampler Lifelinker this turn. I will say I am a little concerned here. Because if my opponent has a Life from the Loam and it, like, gets multiple active Maze of Iths, that's going to be tough. Is my Pithing Needle in the sideboard? I think my Pithing Needle's in the sideboard. Yeah, so I can't just Needle Maze of Ith and call it good. Alright. Doors the Plowshares is actually really fucking good here. I do not think I can risk my opponent getting another mana source getting to activate this. I think I'm willing to give up the Construct token to try and get this out of the way. There are some specific crop rotation based lines that can get a little weird here, but that didn't happen. And I think we're getting saucy. Go ahead and equip to a Mother of Runes so that I can split my damage to the best of my ability. And we're going to go ahead and send on in. Yoshimaru. Oh, they're going for preventing me getting to 22 life, which is reasonable. That scares me, though, because that means that at least one crop rotate. Oh, no. Okay. That's not quite how I thought that was going to go. Tabernacle. That's annoying. Although, notably, like, my mom is untapped and now can offer protection from something like a Punishing Fire. I will be paying for these. Yes. Hey, that's good insurance. I guess I will get a Hope of Girapur. Because Mox Amber doesn't really do anything here. Alright, so that gives me a counter on here, which is the whole reason to do it. So let's send in with both of these. Yeah. I know I get mazed. My opponent's letting me go to 22 now. So that's nice. Sacrifice this until your next turn, target player who is dealt combat damage by this turn. Okay. So, ooh, they're thinking about doing something in their second main phase. Nope, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and let the Hope of Girapur go. And I'll pay for my other two. My clock isn't that fast here. I am absolutely worried. And I don't have a lot of basic lands in this deck. So if my opponent gets Okay, they have a Punishing Fire. That's awful. Yeah, so now I'm at the point where I can't do any damage. Um, this is probably the point where my opponent takes over this game. Not having access to the Pithing Needle in game 1 is really rough here. I will do what I can, but is not really working in my favor. Do I play this now? It just gets wastelanded. I don't know. Like, forcing my opponent to wasteland is reasonable. Let's put another counter on my dog. I guess technically another 2 counters. Although, admittedly, the counters don't do a lot here. And we'll shove, force my opponent to do the whole Maze of Ith dance. I am in trouble in terms of a crop rotation, like based kill assembling a Merit Lodge. I don't know, like opponent finding life from the loam, getting a second Maze of Ith also is like disastrous. So like with multiple pieces of equipment, maybe I can like sneak a 1-drop into play and have it be good. There's worlds where my opponent puts themselves in a situation where they're not able to play a life from the loam they draw because I like draw Thalia and like sneak that into play or something. Hey, that's a Thalia. I can't play it this turn, but next turn. Oh, also Shadow Spear has text that makes something not indestructible, right? That's what that does. Maybe we can make the dog big enough that we can kill a Merit Lodge with it. That would be cool, right? F. That's scary. All right. Do I keep this card in play? I probably keep this card in play rather than just like slam the Thalia immediately. Like playing the Thalia does make it a little harder for me to hold up Swords to Plowshares. So, like there's that. But this game is going to go an awful lot of nowhere. I'm just confirming, but I'm not a Wasteland deck, right? Yeah, I am not a Wasteland deck. All right, we're gonna stare at each other for a little while. So if opponent is not drawing lands, that does mean that they are drawing things like crop rotations or Valakut explorations or something. Don't think I'd play that 1-drop into the active blast zone. Like it's tempting to make Punishing Fire worse, but I don't think that's gonna get me to where I need to be. Okay, that is the Punishing Fire lock assembled. That's not gonna kill Yoshimaru, but that does mean that like my whole Thalia based stuff that's going on here is no longer reasonable. Do I play it as a speed bump and just like to continue growing Yoshimaru? Maybe play it as a speed bump, but like opponent has access to like blast zone with 1 more land drop killing this Yoshimaru, so I don't know that that is really going to be fantastic either. I don't know. I kind of have to hope that my opponent continues to clunk over their mana because I think they've just got this game. I think this is another deck that I am just like not super reasonable against. Like maybe I can grab an early Thalia Heretic Athar and just super slow down my opponent, but I'm not. Oh god, that's a life from the loam. All right. I think at this point, like the writing is on the wall and I'm going to concede. I could play this one out, but I I I don't think I can reasonably win from here. Like with Punishing Fire Tabernacle, double Maze of Ith, and soon to be more stuff. Uh, I don't think it's gonna happen. So I think I want Pithing Needle and the other things that impact the graveyard meaningfully. I might play Cataclysm. I don't like really love Cataclysm versus lands, but since I don't have Wasteland, I may just like need something like this to try and punch hard enough to kill my opponent. Don't think I need Jitte. Hope of Girapar is cute as a way to block a Merit Lodge, but don't know that I want to be about that life. I'd rather just like play a Tomic. And if I'm boarding in 2 other things, I'm not going to fetch up Hope most of the time. Probably a Guardian of Thraben is maybe not the best if I'm going to board in Cataclysms as a central part of my plan. I could cut those and then keep Kithian to help turn on Mox Ambers initially. I could also board out some number of Mox Amber, rationalizing that Punishing Fire is going to keep some amount of my creatures in check. But I think this card is important enough to like my like Yoshimaru into Kithian starts or something like that that I need to keep them. It's also the only way that I'm reasonably going to get a Thalia Heretic Cathar down on turn 2. As another side note, Adeline is not great versus Tabernacle. Like, my cards just aren't lining up well here. If I had 2 lands, unquestionable keep. They get turn 2 Tomic. Can Pithing Needle Wasteland on turn 1 so that that card doesn't obliterate me, but then I don't have, like, the 3rd land to activate Urza Saga, or the 2nd land to deploy this on curve, or the 3rd land to deploy this on curve. I'm unfortunately going to mulligan. Hey, this is actually, like, a really good hand. I think I just keep all of my aggressive elements and dump Swords to Plowshares. Alright, so this is, like, the first insane Yoshimaru hand we've had. I'll play the dog, play the Mox Amber, which triggers this for the first time. And then I will play Kythian, which triggers Yoshimaru a second time. I am now attacking for 5 power on turn 2. Really 6 or more because of a Ganjo. And now I'll just cry when my opponent plays Tabernacle and just, like, brings my start to a crawl. Alright. How bad is this gonna be? It can be bad, like, it can be exploration into something. Okay. Tomic's really good. I think I just play that. Just go, like, land into Tomic, which will grow Yoshimaru yet again. So in case you're not familiar with Tomic's abilities, lands on the battlefield and land cards in graveyards can't be the targets of spells or abilities your opponents control, and your opponents can't play land cards from graveyards. I think I am willing to just battle in with this Kythian. Like, I am the beatdown. I'm good with that. And I still have, like, a mana sink for later anyway in the form of Stoneforge. Now, opponent can do something like Elvish Reclaimer for Caracas, and that can really put a damper on this board. Shadow Spear legendary. Shadow Spear is legendary. Just in case that becomes relevant. Port is whatever. I don't like that. Cataclysm is interesting as a follow-up here. So, I think this is just turn everything sideways. And make Kythian indestructible if my opponent chooses to block it. My opponent might jump in front of the bus here and just stop 5 damage from getting in. Then do a tutor of some kind with Elvish Reclaimer. Okay, that is indeed what's happening. Okay, so Horde is going away. Are we seeing a combo piece? Right, we are seeing the Caracas. Fine. So now Kythian is going to transform. And that does trigger this again. We'll just kind of plus for loyalty here without any legal targets. Then I think since my opponent is planning on blanking this, I go and grab Aldra. That puts pressure on my opponent. There's a world where I get Lion Sash instead to, like, play towards a longer game, but I think I'm looking to end this game in 2 turns. Like, I'm hoping that my opponent doesn't have, like, a Glacial Chasm type card. Opponent could use 1, 2, 3 mana, Blast Zone, kill this, bounce Omic, and then take 5 plus, this is 4, right? Yeah, and then still take lethal damage. Or no, they could bounce Gideon instead then. My opponent will probably go to 2. Alright, let's see what happens. Alright. Gideon becomes a dude. Stoneforge Mystic puts in a Cauldra. Now, this is going to grow the Yoshimaru. And then I'll shove. Oh, they are bouncing the Gideon. Or wait, I already mapped out that they had to do that, right? And then they blast zone the Yoshimaru. Yeah, and then they take 7. Yeah, I already mapped this out before. So go down to 2. And then I think I redeploy this card. And we'll see if my opponent can find a Glacial Chasm type card. No. Okay, so now I've got to try to do that again. And it's a lot harder on the draw. On the draw, do I want more Graveyard Hate? Like, do I want to play the Surgicals as well? How many pieces of Graveyard Hate am I currently playing? So I've got Lion Sash, Rest in Peace, Lantern. I'm currently playing 3. I could cut some number of Adelines to, like, be better versus Tabernacle and better versus the Graveyard. I'll still have a decent creature density, but, like, Adeline is something that lives through Punishing Fire, which is nice. It's also something that can reasonably attack into Elvish Reclaimer later in the game. Alright, I'm going to cut 2 Adelines for 2 Surgicals on the draw. This is reasonable. I will probably keep this. Like, I have some Graveyard Hate, and I have Tomic, which is a pretty decent anti-combo card. I also just have 2 copies of Karakas to help against fast Mariolage. This is a hand that won't be particularly great versus Elvish Reclaimer, though. Ooh, we haven't seen Urza Saga yet. Not surprised to see it, we just haven't seen it yet. Another Tomic isn't fantastic as far as a draw goes. So this Kythian is not going to beat down versus Urza Saga construct tokens, so I think I'm just going to use this turn to floop the Lantern in play and save the Kythian for a bit later. I can use it to grow a Yoshimaru later, or I can play it when I have the mana available to make it indestructible. Oh, it's 3 mana. I thought it was 2 mana. May have misspoken earlier. This is fine. If opponent chooses to do it, it looks like they do. Another Mox. Does that mean my opponent's going to Life from the Loam while this is in play? Yeah. Okay, cool. Opponents' Urza Saga construct tokens are going to be effing huge, just by the way. Turns a little awkward. Right, there's a Mox. There's a land. I can play Kythian. And now I can have Lantern of the Lost available. I can't floop the Tomic into play this turn, unfortunately. There is a world where my Lantern of the Lost eats a Pithing Needle off of this Urza Saga. But I think I'm just going to deal with it rather than, preemptively respond to it. I'm in trouble just to, Urza Saga beat down here. Especially since, Expedition Map just means another is coming. I guess I'm just gonna take this. Question mark, question mark, question mark. I need to answer one creature, one of these tokens, because then afterwards I can play, the Caracas bounce game for a little while. But I am on the slippery slope towards destruction. My opponent is just unquestionably favored here. I also wonder if playing that Wasteland out was a mistake. That feels like a mistake to me. It feels like you just, activate Expedition Map, search up another Urza Saga, and start going that route. I guess the Trample's fine, too. It may be this is one of those situations where, any way you cut it is probably good enough. Let's bounce that. I'll take 7, go to 7. I need, a Swords to Plowshares here. Not a Swords to Plowshares. Alright. So I can play Kythian, play Stoneforge Mystic to search up Kaldra, is relevant here because of the first strike in particular, and attempt to play a reasonable game of Magic. My whole castle probably just falls apart in a number of different ways within 2 turn cycles, but this is probably the line that gives me the best chance. Alright, so my opponent has found a Caracas. Now, Helmic's ability is kind of keeping me from falling apart here, right? My opponent probably wanted to activate that with Mox Diamond, right? They wanted to Mox Diamond, Caracas, bounce Tomic, then Wasteland my Caracas. Okay, yep, Tomic's out of the way. So, because opponent sacrificed their Expedition Map, they went down an artifact, which means I'm not actually dead this turn. I can do this, block here, bounce this, and take 6 going to 1. So I need 2 mana to put in Kaldra, and then I have 2 other mana to do with what I please. Probably just multiple creatures, right? Rather than holding up Caracas. Because my opponent can just, bounce Tomic, then play Wasteland. Let's play a Yoshimaru. Play an Urza Saga. Actually, I have 2 mana available. I could play Tomic instead. Is Tomic better? Yeah. I'm fine with playing a Tomic here, I think. So opponent's at 33 life. Just saying. Just saying. There's a world where I might come through this. Ooh, I wonder if I was supposed to main phase the activation of Kaldra very specifically for if my opponent draws Punishing Fire so that Yoshimaru is preemptively a 3/3 rather than a 2/2. Ooh, that might have been a costly mistake. Alright. There's the Wasteland. Now I activate this. I pray that my opponent does not have Punishing Fire as one of their last cards. Alright. My Caracas goes down. Yoshimaru is currently on chump block duty. If my opponent attacks in with both. Which they are. Lose indestructible. Okay, I think that's fine. Alright, so block. Block. So I do my first strike thing, exiling this token. And then my opponent kills my Yoshimaru in combat. Then it doesn't matter that that this didn't have indestructible because I have first strike and I exile my opponent's creature. Alright. So got 2 mana to make an Urza Saga token and then 2 other mana to play with. If I play Tomic or Kythian, I have 2 other mana to play with. Also, if my opponent has Punishing Fire, I just die to it. Huh. That's a thing. Alright, let's do this. Now I kind of have to decide how saucy I get with attacks. I think I'm going to attack with this and leave back multiple extra bodies to jump block. Oh, fuck, trample. Not account for the trample of Shadowspear. I shouldn't have done that. I'm not, like, dead for that decision, but I should not have made this attack. I should have just poked with something else. It won't matter after this turn if my constructs will be very large. But it absolutely matters this turn. Yeah, there's the equip. Alright, so I have to respond to that by making my Urza Saga construct token. Otherwise, I just, like, lose access to my mana. Yeah, Tomic's still in play. You have to wait for that ability to resolve if you want to nuke my creature. So now you can nuke the Urza Saga. So if you want to attack with both of these, you can take my construct token and my Stoneforge Mystic. No is the answer. That's a fine draw. Alright. This is going to be a slog. I have to try to end this game before, like, Punishing Fire absolutely just takes over the game by shooting me in the face. Or alternatively gain a single point of life. Like, that also would be totally fine and reasonable. Play out a Kythian. 4/4, I can't reasonably attack with that. Do I just keep swinging with this? I might need to just, like, attempt to end the game. It's so much safer to start swinging next turn, though. I already died of Punishing Fire. Alright, maybe I need to. Battle to the metal. Alright, opponent goes to 23. And I'm holding up a Lantern of the Lost activation for if my opponent does draw a life from the loam. That Maze of Ith is awful for me. Yeah, no attacks. The plan now needs to become go wide of the Maze of Ith. Lion's Sash. That is going to get very large. So let's go ahead and deploy that. Attack with both of these. Hold back an Urza Saga Construct token that's very big and a lot of other power. Probably. Although that would drop Lantern. Actually, maybe dropping Lantern isn't the biggest thing in the world right now. And if my opponent untaps one of these, like, that is just another blocker, right? Oh, I guess Tomic should have attacked in too. Maybe Tomic doesn't attack in, actually. I could probably spend a lot more time thinking about this than what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to respect my clock because I don't necessarily expect that this game is going to, is going to resolve itself quickly. Because, like, if Tomic is out of play, my opponent making a Merit Lodge becomes a real thing. And that can be a real problem. Alright, that's fine. My opponent getting, like, a tutor, that is very much not fine. Like, that is the thing that is going to beat me. Ooh. Actually, this is any color, right? No. Any color among the thingies you control. Okay. So let's do this. And then I get a Pithing Needle. And the question is, do I just Pithing Needle Maze of Ith and try to end this game? Or do I just name Thespian Stage and keep my opponent from producing a Merit Lodge? Or do I get Shadowspear and try to gain life, but that's awkward in the face of Maze of Ith? I'm going to shut off Thespian Stage. Just feels like that is a very easy way for me to lose a game here. So my opponent blocks. They're effectively at 23 life. This is 8, 6. Trying to figure out what my opponent has to block here. I don't know. This is a pretty good attack for me. I don't think I have the time to sit here and think this through fully, like with every permutation of blocks. Okay, they're just gonna Maze of Ith 1 and just take all of that damage. That's fine. So I should be able to shove next turn and kill. If I play Tomic, it just gets immediately bounced by Caracas, so I think I'm just going to hold up my mana here. Yeah, opponent says 3 outs, no matter what. GG's. Yeah, they know they have to draw Punishing Fire this turn. Okay, we have gotten the match here. That was a slog. I did not really expect to win that one. This is one of those times where, like, if I was playing this deck competitively, I would absolutely sit down, rewatch the replay of those last couple of turns, and figure out, like, and taken 5 minutes to go through and look at all of, like, the different blocking options. Okay. How is this hand? So I have 3 mana sources, assuming Kythian lives. I can go, like, Flagstones, Kythian, Mox Amber. I don't have anything to do with the Mox Amber. And then I can play either Stoneforge or Adeline on turn 2 while starting an Urza Saga. Hand feels medium to me. I think I'm going to keep it. Like, the upsides of drawing, like, a Mother of Runes or a Yoshimaru in particular make this hand, I think, fine. And the fact that, like, a third land also makes this fine probably gives me enough hits that I'm happy with this. Opponent is going to 5. If they are a combo deck, don't know that I'll... Well, if they're a combo deck and they don't kill me immediately, Ithian into Adeline will probably clock pretty hard. Don't kill me now. Don't kill me now. Don't kill me now. I have so much to live for. There's a good boy in my deck. Okay. So, are we just, like, gonna Echo or something? Mystic Forge. Okay. So, how kind is the top of the deck going to be to you is, like, the ultimate question here. So, opponent can exile the top card of their library a couple different times with Mystic Forge to try to get things that are castable for them. Okay. Okay, yeah, see, this is kind of what I was talking about. So I can go Flagstones, Pythian, Mox Amber, now tap that for white, play Mother of Runes. Yeah. And so this game becomes a race. It's my creatures plus their, like, life loss from Ancient Tomb and Mystic Forge versus their ability to just, like, hit a draw 7 and kill me outright. Well, not, like, instantly kill me outright, but it would be bad. Okay, cool. So, I am always playing Urza Saga, and I think I just play the thing that is going to result in instant damage. So, this is whenever I attack. So this gives me 4 damage this turn, and probably lethal next turn. Yeah, that puts my opponent at 10. This is a 4/4 now. It'll be a 5/5. All right. How ham can you go? All right, there is a Basalt Monolith. Basalt Monolith plus Manifold Key is a nice little combo there. Okay, seems like they're... Ooh, it's a Walking Ballista. That potentially gives my opponent another turn. They have to, like... So the thought was, how much do I play this Walking Ballista for? And I think the answer was, like, just play it for 1 and try to keep comboing. Like, this deck can go infinite. Okay, they're going deeper with Ancient Tomb. And there's 3 more mana. Netting more mana. Into more mana. We'll see an untap. Yeah, it's an untap of Mystic Forge. Sure. This is fine thus far. It's absolutely scary. 4 mana. There's a counter on Walking Ballista. That probably means that my opponent is not immediately dead next turn. Okay. Actually, Shadow Spear probably means that my opponent is dead, right? Like, play Shadow Spear, equip it to Adeline. Yeah, that seems like a good line. Let's do that. So now we'll equip here. And just shove everything sideways. So this is a 5/5 right now. About to become a 6/6 when I attack with this creature. And then my opponent can, like, block here, shoot down 2 creatures, but I'm still presenting lethal. All right. There's the block. There's a ping. And there's another ping. But Adeline alone is still lethal. And that is a turn 3 kill. Now, admittedly, My opponent helped me in this turn 3 kill by, like, ever so kindly tapping their Ancient Tombs and Mystic Forges a few times. Alright, we have some amount of hate for this deck. I can play Pithing Needle for Mystic Forge. Deafening Silence will absolutely be good here. Kataki will be good. Stony Silence is great. And then this stuff is actually relevant too. Um, let's start by kind of figuring out what I don't want. I want to board out all 4 Mother of Runes. I probably want to board out Jitte. Hope of Girapur isn't exactly fantastic. It's kind of neat. I don't know if I actually want that card in my deck. I can't really cut Swords to Plowshares because my opponent is an Urza's Saga deck. So, like, Swords to Plowshares is very frequently going to be a dead card. I don't know that I can just, like, totally junk it. Let's sort this by mana value, see where we're at here. Because, like, I can choose to mess with their graveyard if I want. And it will be good sometimes and not relevant other times. I think I'm going to cut the Hope. And I think I'm going to play Cataclysm when I'm on the play if we go to a game 3. Can I trim a Source of Plowshares? Do I trim a Source of Plowshares or trim a Tomic? It leaves me with 25 creatures. This is probably fine. And then when I'm on the play and I feel like Cataclysm is a more reasonable card that I could cast where it has an impact on the game, I would do so. Given how powerful some of my cards like Deafening Silence and Stony Silence are, I don't know that this hand is good enough. Like, this is an okay hand in the grand scheme of things. Like, Thalia absolutely does something versus their deck, but I don't know that, like, aggro creature into Thalia with nothing else beyond that is going to be strong enough on the draw. Beats? These are really strong beats. I will keep this. Assuming nothing happens to any of these things, it's better to keep 2 Kithian than Yoshimaru. And I'm not expecting a ton of removal out of my opponent's deck, but if they dismember me or something, this is a little awkward. And it's more optimal to keep the Kithian because, like, you can have a Gideon Battleforged and a Kithian. Different names and whatnot. Alright, so my opponent has kept on 5, and we'll see how crazy their first turn ends up being. That can do silly things. Alright, so I want to play my regular non-legendary land first. We'll do that. Yoshimaru. Mox Amber. Start the dog-based aggro. And I'm going to attack for a lot of damage next turn. Just absolutely a ton of damage. Alright, there is a Grim Monolith into a Mystic Forge. So we may end up in a similar position to last game, where my opponent does a decent amount of damage to themselves, but they don't have Ancient Tomb this time, which is a big difference. There's another key, so my opponent can use that to net mana or attempt to. Okay. So this is the scary part. Okay. So Basalt Monolith plus Mesmeric Orb is a little scary. So whenever a permanent becomes untapped, that permanent's controller mills a card. Okay. So they can use this to fish for things like Echo of Eons in their graveyard. And they can kind of filter everything with Mystic Forge. So my opponent likely wins the game or close to it this turn. And this sort of situation is why the graveyard hate can become relevant, because you can, like, play a Rest in Peace and then all of this stuff goes to exile rather than to their deck directly. And since my opponent can play things off the top of their library, they can treat LEDs like Black Lotus, and that is what is going to allow them to get the mana to actually cast an Echo of Eons. So at this point, there is going to be an absolutely absurd number of clicks as my opponent goes through and tries to just do combo nonsense. And I think at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward, and I'll update you as particularly relevant things are happening. All right, a Karn the Great Creator has happened. So my opponent can use this, crack an LED, use that to get an ensnaring bridge if they want. Okay, they're going for a defense grid. Sure, defense grid is reasonable. Okay, so my opponent is now cracking all of their LEDs and all of their lotus petals, and this is returning these things to deck, which is absolutely relevant. So now they'll go and cast an Echo of Eons. They'll refuel their hand, and they can kind of loop through their deck a second time until they can, like, find something that actually kills me. So here is a second Karn the Great Creator. See what they get with this one. Okay, this is an Aetherflux Reservoir, so this is going to be their win condition. So if you're not familiar with this one, whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. So as you can see here, my opponent has just gained a crap ton of life, and now they can deal 50 damage to me and kill me. All right. So now I am on the play. How much more hate do I want to play on the play? Like, Cataclysm becomes interesting to sweep the opposing board, and some of the cards like Rest in Peace become a little more interesting as well. I can't like board down too many threats. But I can probably go a little heavier on the play than what I did on the draw. The issue with the Graveyard Hate is that if opponent like does the Basalt Monolith combo and just casts a bunch of crap off the top of their library, like that becomes just totally reasonable as a win condition as well. Let's err on the side of the hate this time. I don't think I'm going to play Lantern of the Lost. I think holding up the mana is going to be hard here. I think I can probably reasonably play these 4. I think Rip is going to be better than Surgical. I think it's close. Like, Surgical doesn't require mana investment, and I can echo into it, but is just a little more awkward. I guess the real question is, what don't I want? Like, Tomic isn't particularly great. I feel good cutting both of those. Shadowspear's Trample can absolutely be relevant. This gets me the Cataclysms. I can probably go down on Source of Plowshares, honestly. Get, like, those 2 in there and feel okay about that. All right, let's open up on some hate, shall we? This is a turn 2 Thalia hand with matching legendary land. I don't like this. All right. All right, let's... Kataki isn't as good as something like Stony Silence, and like Kataki plus multiple Urza Sagas is definitely awkward, but I'm going to assume that this is reasonable. I really wanted a Deafening Silence or a Stony Silence in one of my opening hands, because like those are probably going to be my strongest plays versus this deck, but such is life. All right, here we go. I will just lead on the basic planes because like Yoshimaru makes me want to hold these other lands for longer. We'll see if we can do anything gross with a Kataki. Opal. This could get scary. Oh yeah, it is just an immediate echo. That's still a Kataki. Kataki plus a little extra mana than what I had. All right. I'm gonna have 3 mana this turn. I probably just need to play Kataki and mess with my opponent's artifacts. If I am only using 2 of my mana this turn, then I probably shouldn't play my Mox Amber this turn. I should just hold off on that. I guess I can consider whether Thalia is better than Kataki. Thalia keeps me further away from Cataclysm, though, which I can cast next turn. Yeah, I'll take my attack first on the off chance that something crazy like a Warping Whale happens, but I would not necessarily expect that. So my opponent can tap their City of Traders to keep both of these artifacts, which is indeed what's happening. Then we'll see how scary this turn gets. There are worlds where I can die for not playing Thalia. I'm just so very tempted by like the possibility of Cataclysm just sweeping the board next turn. I don't know, maybe Kataki is already playing that duty and it's better to just play Thalia, try to get a bridge turn. But Thalia will be significantly worse versus a fair card, like say Walking Ballista or something like that. Okay, there is an Urza Saga into Karn. So this Cataclysm is essentially pretty gross. Yeah, opponent just found Walking Ballista. So I'm always attacking and killing. Well, actually, no. I'm always just attacking their face if I play Cataclysm, right? Cataclysm will just beat the Karn. I could just attack and play a bunch of hateful cards. Maybe I just attack and play a bunch of hateful cards. And, like, Cataclysm later. Alright, goodbye, Karn. 4 mana is awkward. I think I just hold up Caracas for this Walking Ballista and play Thalia Heretic Cathar. This lets, yeah. So this lets me protect Kataki from the Walking Ballista while making it so that my opponent's land that they would want to use for Urza Saga comes in tapped. And like, yeah, good stuff. I think I win that match playing it a couple different ways though. Okay. I can make a very big Yoshimaru with this hand. So I'll go ahead and keep this one. I wish I had a Mox, but you know, who doesn't? Ooh. Is this the Goblin's Master? It might be. Alright, do I just Swords to Plowshares this turn and just stop this mana acceleration? Or do I just commit Yoshimaru and deal with a card that actually matters? I think I'm going to take this tempo play here. It's very important to do that if my opponent is playing Food Chains Goblins in particular. Alright. So, I think this turn is Operation Big Dog. Alright, so it's resolved. This gets me a +1/+1 counter, and I think I play Mother of Runes here. It's possible I want to play Shadow Spear so that a Tarfire specifically can't mess with me. But more generally, I think getting active Mother of Runes so that I can just give this thing protection from red and crash into the red zone is probably important. All right. Okay, no, it's not a Tarfire or anything. Getting Thalia Heretic Cathar into play before my opponent gets a lot of their stuff down would be huge, just by the way. I get ported off of one of these, which is fine. And now I will go ahead and play a Tomic. Do I take 4 points of damage or 3? Munitions Expert is weak right now. I think I can take 4 points of damage here. I am the beatdown. And then next turn I can play Thalia Heretic Cathar. Yoshimaru is going to be wild. Alright, my opponent has a Cavern of Souls. And I have a Goblin Matron. Yeah, so this is Marcelo Scatina, who is a Goblins expert. Knew I recognized that name. They recently put up a very good Goblins finish. I'm not gonna look up their deck list. I'd rather just play here. All right, they are going for a Muxus. Absolutely. I will do everything in my power to prevent them from getting to that. That probably means playing Thalia Heretic Cathar to make the lands come in tapped. Playing Shadow Spear to grow my Yoshimaru. We'll give this pro red. And then I'll go ahead and crash in. And my opponent will die next turn if they don't have anything to say about it. They're at 8. And like Yoshimaru plus Tomic alone is going to do 8 points of damage. Yeah, I don't think a ringleader gets them to where they need to be. Like those are cards that are ETBing tapped. All right, cool. I can go ahead and go 2 mana Thalia. That grows that to a 6. Go ahead and equip that there. Give that pro red. The combat. Yep, there we go. Opponent sees the writing on the wall. All right. I imagine we don't really have a lot for goblins. I will probably go ahead and play Grafdigger's Cage or Muxus. I play Pithing Needle for Aether Vial. I will probably play Lion Sash just as a mid-range card. My Thalia Guardian of Thrabens aren't fantastic. Hope of Girapar is a flyer, but is probably not fantastic. I think I'm going to start with cutting Hope and probably trimming Thalia. Like, Thalia's first strike is, like, technically relevant in the matchup, but I am mostly hoping to create a large Yoshimaru or Urza Saga, give it trample or otherwise evasion and get through. There's worlds where I play Cataclysm, but I feel like the Cataclysm is rough in a lot of worlds where my opponent has Aether Vial. This hand is reasonable versus a Goblin Lackey start. I am going to keep this. This hand can be improved a lot by drawing a 1-mana legendary creature. And no, I wanted you to have a lackey that I could Swords to Plowshares. That's not what I wanted there. Is there a world where I play Urza Saga on turn 1 to shut off this Aether Vial? I don't think so. I think I need to respect the mid-range game that may end up occurring. Well, that is likely to end up occurring. My opponent's favored from this position. They're like Rishadan ports and such are going to be very good. And things like Munitions Expert can kill Mother of Runes in this window here. Hey! Oh my god! What a fucking draw. Absolutely. I need another land next turn quite badly. So badly. Yep, there's the obligatory fetch to make sure that I don't just name Bloodstained Mire and blow them out in that way. And I'll shut off their Aether Vial for now. I am not going to attack with Mother of Runes. Those points of damage are not super relevant at this time. I am not going to be doing a super big aggro finish here. Yeah. Take it nice and slow. Come on, legendary creature. F. Okay. I mean, multiple Source of Plowshares is good for different reasons, but like the Goblins deck will absolutely overcome this discrepancy. Like, just as they make land drops, they are going to have access to powerful things like Matron and Ringleader that will let them like pull way past 2 Swords of Plowshares. All right, we're weathering the storm. There's a land. These still aren't on because they don't have legendary creatures. So we wait. I think if my opponent gets to their 4th land drop before I get Thalia Heretic Cathar down, I am in a lot of trouble. Okay, there's the 4th land drop. So things like Ringleaders are going to make my Swords to Plowshares look a little embarrassing. The Sling Gang Lieutenant. I am going to go ahead and just remove that with the trigger on the stack. All right, and my opponent is going to opt to drain me for 1 rather than just let me exile the creature. All right, there is a land. And now it's like Adeline versus Thalia. I think I'm going to play the Disruptive card first. Now I can go ahead and play a Mox Amber that is now on for Swords to Plowshares, should I need it. But long term, there is very much the threat of something like Moxus coming down and just being an absolute nuisance. Yeah, there's a Ringleader, and this is kind of what I mean in terms of card advantage. Oh wow, my opponent only got 1 card out of that. That's pretty lucky for me. I really won't have profitable attacks there. Thin the deck or save this for Yoshimaru. I think thin the deck because it also lets me leave up a Ganjo Castle. All right, so play Adeline, play Flagstones, keep the new one, trigger this, pull one of the other 2 planes out of the deck. I don't think I'm going to play the other Mox just to hold up Swords to Plowshares. That telegraphs that so hard. I am going to go ahead and ship in with this, though, so that I can get my trigger from Adeline. Want to build up a respectable creature count if possible. I need to kind of try to close this game because, like, the threat of Muxus is fucking real. And I don't have a lot of disruption. Thalia helps. I'm going to assume that my opponent has a basic mountain that they can fetch with that. Okay, there is another Ringleader. Luckily, it enters tapped. Okay. Just confirming, you are not a goblin. You are not a goblin, thankfully. But opponent does have a Munitions Expert. Okay, there's another tapped land. Oh, I am seeing attacks from my opponent. Feels like Fury. I don't think I block with Mom. I think I'll block with Adeline, and then I can use a Ganjo Castle to prevent damage on this, and Mom to prevent damage on something else. Or I could just take this damage. Oh, no, I'll force their hand if they have it. I wonder if I was supposed to activate a Ganjo Castle right there, though. Or no, Adeline's toughness is base 4. Its toughness doesn't change with number of creatures. Never mind. Does that accomplish nothing? Let's a Ganjo Castle on Adeline. War Chief was pitched to Pyrokinesis by the... Oh my god, a second Pyrokinesis. Not expecting that. What is most important to save here? The Adeline is going to be the card that scales. I think I picked the Adeline. Go pro-red there. Yeah, one does not expect to need to play around multiple pyrokinesis. Yeah, I'll crash in with my Adeline, and I'll start trying to scale up this creature. We are essentially in a top deck war where my opponent has very powerful tutors and cards like ringleaders that they can draw. Yeah, no attacks from opponent, and opponent will mess with one of these two lands in their upkeep depending on which one they value more. Probably Caracas? Yeah. Okay. I am fine with playing that out pre-combat. I think I just rumble with these and don't use Swords to Plowshares on Goblin Ringleader. I think I'm fine with my opponent eating a token every turn. That's fine. There are just, like, bigger fish to fry in terms of targets for this Swords to Plowshares. Alright, a Munitions Expert. That's gonna kill my mom. So be it. Only prevents to legendary creatures. Okay, they're now messing with my Aganjo. Fine with just activating that here. I am extremely likely to just have enough mana to do so. So I'll play a Mother of Runes here. This is a 3/4. Yeah, do attack the Ringleader with Swords to Plowshares now. I don't really want to. I might need to. Alright, so I'll send this sideways. I'll take my 1/1. Opponent will take a little bit of damage. Very scared of my opponent's top decks, though. And there's another Munitions Expert for Mother of Runes again. Alright. Yeah, I mean, I am absolutely fine repeating this process. I really don't want that draw. Send Adeline scales again. I hate how unreadable this number is. Like, opponent is going to trade for a token. I'll call that a turn. Yeah, I mean, every creature they draw is just another turn that they probably get to stay alive. And we repeat this song and dance. The Yoshimaru, absolutely. I'll just play that to grow my creature. Go ahead and attack in. And every point of life is super relevant here. I think I just go and grow my Yoshimaru here. Keep this Mox Amber. Do that. Keep this Mox Amber. I think I can grow Yoshimaru by one more, but growing it by one more would mean that my Caracas shield is down, so I don't think I'm going to do that. All right, opponent needs a big top deck here because I have two different lethal threats plus the tokens as well. All right, and that does mean we win the match there. Given how things played out, I wish I would have Swords to Plowshared the Goblin token one turn earlier, as that would have meant that my opponent didn't have one more draw. But like being able to remove something like a Sling Gang Lieutenant as it came into play was like something that I was definitely valuing at the time. So like there's that. What's our record now? Oh, we're 3-1. Looking good. Okay. Well, I don't have any of the aggressive things that like can really make or break hands with this deck. This is a pretty reasonable looking Death and Taxes style hand where we're kind of hoping that I can Swords to Plowshares something on turn 1 to like use my mana over the course of a couple of turns efficiently. Oh, Wasteland Go is totally fine for me. We'll just lead on a basic planes here, call that good. Opponent could be on a lot of things. It could just be Blue-Red Delver, because it's always Blue-Red Delver, you know? Ha! No fucking way. Mirror match? I think we're playing in a mirror. Or no, we can't be playing a mirror, because, like, this deck doesn't have Wasteland, at least not in this configuration. For the sake of using my mana efficiently, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. Ooh, that's good. If my opponent is playing full-on D&T, I don't really want to drop Stoneforge here. And if they're not playing full-on D&T and it's just a different version of this deck, I absolutely want to drop Stoneforge here. 60-card D&T is relatively uncommon right now. So I think I'm going to go ahead and make the Cauldron play. If Thalia wasn't such a bad play against this deck, I would probably play Thalia and then try to do like Mom and Stoneforge in a turn cycle or something. All right. Spirit of the Labyrinth. Into Swords to Plowshares. That's fine. Yeah, and this is what I mean about like Thalia. I'm in a really bad spot against an onboard Caracas. This is a legend. Reactivate. Alright. This probably just has to be a multiple creatures turn and just kind of accept that things are a little awkward. I would love confirmation that my... Ooh. Ooh, I don't like that. Yeah. We are absolutely going to get punished for the deck building choices that this deck has made here. My opponent is very favored in this matchup, I think, with, like, many copies of Caracas plus Wastelands to obliterate my mana base. I think I'm going to just offer up this land to Wasteland. Like, I just have to kind of continue to do stuff. I really hope my opponent doesn't have access to a flyer like Flicker Wisp. That's the thing that will cause my house of cards to crumble. All right. There's a Wasteland on my land. That's okay. They can go Jitte Equip. Can't really profitably get anywhere with that. All right, there is the Equip. Yeah, you can bounce that creature. That's fine. Lock? Pro white? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. Okay. Let's assume our opponent is learning the deck. All right. Probably want Needle for equipment and Stoneforge. Probably don't want more legendary creatures. I probably want Lion Sash just as a body. I can consider Stony Silence. But, like, I do have some relevant things as well. Honestly, Pithing Needle may need to happen for Caracas, too. I'm really glad my opponent punted game one. I've got an uphill battle here. I need to bore out some number of legendary creatures. I'm thinking about whether or not, like, I want to do something crazy, like play a Cataclysm. I don't think so. I'm also unsure about Stony Silence. I might do it on the play. I don't think it makes a lot of sense on the draw. I'm going to go down to Thalia's for these and call that good. When I'm on the play where Stony Silence is better versus Aether Vial, I'll make some changes. This is a reasonable Urza's Saga-based opening hand that I guess I'll keep. Not overly strong, but it has an answer to a turn 1 Mom. Going to be less good against an Aether Vial start, but, you know, that is what it is. Okay. Still think I'm going to attempt to get Mom going rather than just immediately going for Urza's Saga to Pithing Needle Aether Vial and playing Hope of Girapur. We'll see how this goes. Okay, there's a Legend Ruling of Flagstones. My opponent will get to search for a basic plains and put it into play tapped. Alright, there goes my Mom. That's fine. Adeline's kind of whatever. Am I just going all in on Urza's Saga here? Probably better. Like, and also just like getting this to work towards Pithing Needle is probably pretty good in a couple different directions. And I've got Source of Plowshares up for an end of turn Mother of Runes, which did not happen. Wasteland's not great for me. Not the end of the world, but it's not good for me, because it's just like more time for this Aether Vial to tick up. That's a Tomic. I don't think I can play that. I think I just have to act with Hope of Girapur right now. It's really only punished by something like Sarah Avenger, which is incredibly uncommon right now. And I think I'm going to try to go this Urza's Saga route. Got Source of Plowshares available for end of turn Stoneforge Mystic. That happens. Does. My opponent fetches Cauldra. I just remove Stoneforge here. Fetch Batterskull. Similar logic. Let's just take that out of play. My opponent is getting so much free mana out of this vial. See what their play is. Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't care about that. Now, I don't love that I have a second Flagstones here, because that means I have to make my token at sorcery speed. You know, this is one of the costs of playing more of these, right? More of these legendary lands. So this means that if my opponent has a Flicker Wisp, they can eat this token in this turn cycle, whereas otherwise they would not have been able to do so. Yep, they did not. So about the worst world here is my opponent just like naturally having Jitte in hand, and just going like 2 mana Jitte equip, swing in, be able to kill my construct tokens. Well, that would be pretty rough. Let's see what their follow-up play is. Oh, they're not porting me. I'm thankful for that. Not sure why they're not porting me. Like, I don't know if I'm supposed to read that as Cathar Commando or I don't have my stops set correctly. Either way, I think I just shut off that Aether Vial. It's just so good right now. Am I fine attacking with a 3/3? Yes, I think so. Battle on in there. If my opponent has an actual factual flash creature of some kind. It isn't a Ganjo. That's fine. Yeah, and this is the difference between playing against a player that you've identified as probably new, right? If I was playing against a more experienced player, I would have for sure known that there was a combat trick. But like, given that I am playing against a less experienced player, like that is very unclear to me. Ataki is interesting here. I think I'm just gonna pay for my stuff. Okay, that is very much a mistake. So you're supposed to let me pay for my own stuff first, and then if I don't pay for something, you tap down the land that I don't tap. So like, I had to tap both of these things anyway, or at least I was intending on tapping both of those things anyway. So my opponent like has tapped lands for essentially no reason. Oh fuck! Speaking of no reason, I don't have a legendary creature. I don't know. This lets me attack in this turn. Like that is probably good enough on its own. Definitely awkward though. Shouldn't have done that. I don't know. I might have done that anyway though. Like it's just worth 3 points of damage, whereas I wouldn't have been able to attack otherwise. No, I think I would have done that anyway. 3 mana, a Skyclave, sure, that's fine. Goes down to a 2/2. Like 4 damage here. I'm at 15. I don't want to pay for this Mox. You can just let the Mox go. My Construct's probably not attacking this turn anyway. Value in keeping this 2/2 and just like trying to trade it for one of these, which in turn can trade for Kataki. Alright, I'll pay. Yoshimaru. And I'll just hold back this creature. It's kind of my hope to trade the Construct in combat this turn and then create some very large creatures. Oh, yeah, absolutely spend a card on that. Absolutely. So I can take 6 here. That's fine. Then I can go ahead and pay for this because this will pay for itself. Yeah. I'm going to have an aneurysm. So I'll pay for this. Whereas if opponent like waited or for me to pay for that or not, they actually have the opportunity to like truly port me down. All right. So play Yoshimaru, which then turns on this land. Or well, sorry, turns on this Mox Amber. It's not technically a land. I'll make a Mother of Runes. All right, no end of turn creature or anything, which is very nice for me. And I assume opponent will pay for that vial. Waiting to pay costs, so they have a playable card of some kind. Little surprised that's still in the deck. I don't know, maybe they view a 2/1 first striker as totally reasonable. Alright, do I want this Kataki dead? Nah. I think these cards being in play is just more important. I'll take the 6 damage here. Alright. Mox Amber can pay for itself. Another Mox Amber. So, Alia makes that a little awkward. I still think I play that because it grows Yoshimaru. Keep the untapped one. Grow this. And then I think I play the creature with the biggest butt on the battlefield here, which is Tomic. And now I'm very quickly reaching the point where I stabilize. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. Like now I have the advantage in combat. I just don't have the life total advantage or the mana advantage. All right. Opponent's sitting at end step. I'm starting to get worried about something like a Flicker Wisp. See what it is. Is a Flicker Wisp. That is unfortunate. Yeah, I probably have to just protect that. But I can block that creature in the air. I haven't mapped it out yet, but I assume that I'm probably dead. My opponent just turns all that stuff sideways. I take 6, right? Yeah. We'll make my opponent figure that out, though. Okay, that's fine. Alright. Gov. Gov. So I block. Yeah, take 6 and die. That's fine. Now get a game where I'm on the play. And consider Stony Silence on the play. Stony Silence is just like awkward because of some things like Lion Sash and my own Jitte and my Mox Ambers. I think I'm just going to submit as is. Like, Stony Silence is going to be very good against some of my opponent's draws, but like my opponent is playing Katakis and things like that as well, right? So, and like the fact that Cauldra exists and is just so very good versus Stony Silence. I don't think I want to go that route. It's not like keeping a bunch of creatures like Thalia makes me super happy either. All right. Is this hand good enough? It plays a turn 1 Mom, which is nice, but then the follow-up plays aren't exactly good. This hand is kind of whatever. It's 1 mana source away from being reasonable, I think. I'm going to mulligan this one. It's just very bad versus Caracas. Yeah, this is fine. This is Mom into Stoneforge Mystic for Cauldra, Stoneforge with Jitte backup. I think I just junk the 3-drop here and keep the 1-drop, assuming that I can sneak it in to play at some point. Wastelands will be good against me with this hand, but Wastelanding, like when your opponent has like an active Mother of Runes already, is a little rough. Oh, never mind about the active Mother of Runes. Here's hoping I don't have 2 removal spells then. Okay. I can just make a couple of large legendary creatures here. And then treat Stoneforge as my follow-up. I think I'm probably supposed to do that. This also baits removal better. And makes it so that the Cauldra is actually more likely to do its thing. Alright. Not the way I intended on playing out the hand, but the way that I am nevertheless going to do so. Like, I produced 5 power on turn 2. That will be at least 6 power next turn, assuming I kind of continue the way that I'm going. I would love to draw a land here. That'll work. Alright. Bounce Thalia out of the way. Play Shadow Spear. Throw Yoshimaru. Crash in for 6 points of damage. This is a lot of onboard power, and it like incentivizes my opponent to use removal on Yoshimaru. Oh, it's just a Recruiter. For a Skyclave? For a Skyclave. There's a Mother of Runes. So I can play Stoneforge Mystic this turn and fetch Cauldra, forcing my opponent to use Skyclave Apparition on Stoneforge rather than Yoshimaru. And that'll be a pretty good line unless my opponent top decks a Caracas specifically. Yeah, I think I'm good with that. Alright, swing in with Best Boy. See if my opponent takes the chump block for life. They do not. And here's Stoneforge for Cauldra, which feels pretty good. I don't think I'm supposed to like grab Lion Sash or anything. I don't really have the mana to take advantage of that. I also really don't want to get wastelanded. But it feels like if that was going to happen, it would have happened by now. So like it has to be my opponent's top deck. Alright, which one you going after? Yep, alright. Stoneforge as expected. Another Yoshimaru. It's probably just play Mom this turn. Although it's kind of tempting to play Jitte and just like be able to pick apart my opponent's creatures if something happens to my Yoshimaru. Yeah, it's easier to like play Mom plus Yoshimaru in the future or something like that. Let's take this line. Not sure if that is correct or not. But like getting an active Jitte and picking apart a couple of my opponent's creatures here is really good. Especially when I can just like get tokens to be additional bodies. Doesn't feel like opponent has Solitude in their deck, by the way. Ooh, that's very good. Yep. That plus a removal spell would be very good here. Alright. So let's see if I hit a land. Ooh, even if I do hit a land, that's a little rough. Okay, that's good. Yeah. So I will play Mother of Runes this turn. And then next turn, I can go Jitte equip, give pro white, and call it good. Opponent's in pretty good shape if they have more removal, though. Or more wastelands. That is not what they want to have here. That is, though. That's pretty good. Alright. Believe I will be paying for Jitte in the hopes of top decking another land to just instantly win this game. And letting Shadow Spear go. I just can't pay for that and just, like, do my highest upside play by hitting any land drop. Alright, before I invest my mana here, I'm going to give Kithian Pro White to just confirm that my opponent, like, isn't going to blow me out with Solitude. Alright, Pro White has worked. Yeah. We'll equip my Jitte. And this is going to allow me to get rid of both Thalia and Kataki. This is going to be incredibly strong. Yeah, and that's good enough to get the concession there for the 4-1 finish. Overall thoughts on the deck list. That was a lot of fun to play. This was a good change of pace. I don't know that I feel like the deck is nuts. Like, we put up a good finish with this, but there's a lot of clunkers as far as opening hands go. This deck has a lot of raw power, and the best hands that this deck have are just absolutely insane. Like, there were multiple times where we just kind of casually attacked for 5 on turn 2, or produced 5 power on turn 2, or something like that. And, like, that is absolutely nothing to sneeze at, even in Legacy. I think this deck has a decent number of weaknesses, and I think it's going to have very polarized matchups, right? So, like, as I highlighted in the deck tech, this deck has so many basic lands. So when you're sitting down Wasteland Recursion from something like lands, like, that's absolutely terrifying. And, like, Blood Moon effects similarly would have ended a lot of games. And, like, opposing Karakas was definitely scary from the decks that either play 3 or 4 copies of those or otherwise have access to them tutoring. But I don't know. Maybe this deck matches up against just the right stuff, and at some point you're going to want to play something like this. I feel a little awkward playing Cataclysm because I'm just, like, go wide creature deck in a lot of cases once the board has stalled. So, like, the Cataclysm is hard to cast because I have 20 lands. Like, I technically have 24 mana sources, but, like, Mox Amber isn't always reliable as a mana source either. And, like, Mox Amber isn't always reliable at activating Urza Saga on turn 2. There's a lot of things to like about this deck, and I think this is a super cool design. I like the idea of messing around with Mox Amber more. Anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please click the like button on your way out. Leave me a comment if you have any thoughts. And if you want to try out this deck or you want to get one of your own decks on the channel, remember that information is always available in the video description. Have a great rest of the day. See ya!